CLP Power expects a downward adjustment of electricity fuel costs later this year. South Korea will evacuate thousands of scouts from a coastal Jamboree site. And a train derailment in Pakistan leaves 30 people dead and many others injured. Hello and happy Monday. Oil prices have been hovering around the highest level since April, but CLP Power says that as international fuel prices stabilize, Hong Kong residents could expect a gradual softening of energy prices and a downward adjustment of electricity charges later this year. Sharon Tang has more.
The city's electricity prices are made up of two components, basic tariff and fuel cost adjustment. While the basic tariff is determined by the power company's investment in fixed assets, fuel cost adjustment reflects changes in fuel prices. At the start of the year, CLP Power adjusted its fuel costs, charging residents 62 cents per unit of electricity. The company then offered special rebates, freezing the tariffs at 62.8 cents per unit of electricity. Fuel costs started falling in July, hitting 57.1 cents per unit of electricity this month, meaning the overall tariff has gone down by 2.3% compared to that in January. During its interim results briefing today, CLP Holdings said that fuel charges may go down if international fuel prices remain at a steady level. That's after CLP Power returned to profitability in the first half of 2023 compared to a record loss during the same period last year.
We're committed to providing customers with reliable and reasonably priced electricity, so we've continued with our stringent cost controls and a diversified fuel mix to ease the pressure on tariffs. We also provided rebates and subsidies to alleviate the pressure, especially for low-income families.
Still, CLP's prediction today was made amid geopolitical tensions, as well as Saudi Arabia and Russia cutting down on oil production. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
The Department of Justice has decided to appeal against a court decision to reject an application for an injunction barring 4 classes of unlawful acts related to the protest song Glory to Hong Kong. A spokesman noted the Court of First Instance of the High Court had earlier turned down the department's initial legal bid, having considered that such acts already constitute criminal offenses even without the injunction. The court also ruled that the enforcement of the injunction may conflict with the prosecution procedure of cases concerning offenses endangering national security. The Secretary for Justice considered it necessary to appeal in order to put forward views and request the court to reconsider granting the interim injunction. The government reiterated it is a criminal offense to disseminate or perform the song with the intention of inciting others to commit secession or to insult the national anthem. A burst water pipe caused a road subsidence at Wong Chuk Hang Road in Aberdeen early this morning. Traffic was temporarily disrupted as lanes leading to the Aberdeen Tunnel were closed during rush hour. Mimo Singai reports.
Water streaming on the road, becoming muddy in some areas. A road subsidence occurred on the section of Wong Chuk Hang Road at around 5 a.m. this morning, leaving a massive hole at the scene. Debris and mud spread across the area. The Water Supplies Department quickly deployed staff to conduct repair work. Because of the incident, traffic was badly affected. At least 30 buses were forced to divert their routes by using Pok Fu Lam Road instead of heading towards the Aberdeen Tunnel. The sudden change of traffic routes and disruption created frustration for the public. For instance, this man said he was supposed to arrive at his workplace by 9:30 a.m. for a meeting. I am still here at 9:40 a.m., he said. This man had to take 2 forms of transport to reach his office, bus and MTR. He said the government should conduct more repair work on water pipes to avoid another similar incident in the future. Affected by the subsidence and the traffic accident and Connaught Road Central flyover, the Western Harbour Tunnel was closed temporarily. Traffic congestion was serious on the Kowloon side of the tunnel bound for Hong Kong Island. The tunnel was closed for 30 minutes before service was resumed at around 10:30 a.m. Mimosa 9, TVB News.
At least 14 people, including 3 government officers, died in the flood-affected city of Shulan in Jilin province on the mainland. In Heilongjiang, at least a dozen rivers saw water levels exceeding the flood limit. Some districts in the city of Harbin turned into a water town, with rescuers performing their duties on rubber dinghies. More than 100,000 people were affected at Shulan City in Jilin province. Authorities have put the latest death toll in the city at 14, including 3 public servants. One of them was a deputy mayor who went missing while carrying out rescue efforts. Meanwhile, some online influencers have been told to leave the hard-hit zones after they were seen filming themselves carrying senior citizens on their backs in deep waters. Organizers are evacuating thousands from a scout camp in South Korea amid a typhoon threat, but have pledged to continue the troubled World Jamboree in some form at a safer location. Youngsters from over 150 countries will have to be moved away from the Saemangum campsite and out of the path of the storm. The South Korean government and scout leaders announced the decision in Busan. Typhoon Kanun is expected to approach the region later this week, and they say everyone will be moved away by tomorrow. Scouts will most likely be accommodated in and around Seoul. The government here in Hong Kong says the Scout Association of Hong Kong must make sure their participants leave the camp safely and is urging them to try to return home as early as possible. It's another setback for the Jamboree, which has suffered problems and criticism. Groups from 3 countries left the campsite on Friday because of what they said were poor living conditions for hot weather. Around 40,000 attend the world's biggest youth camp. Most are aged between 14 and 18. Pakistani authorities are investigating what caused a passenger train to derail on Sunday, killing 30 people. Many more had to be rescued from the wreckage as they lay injured and trapped inside. David Garrett reports.
Photos from the southern province of Sindh show carriages scattered. People from a nearby village rushed to help after hearing a bang. There was little they could do for those still alive, stranded under tons of wreckage. Relief teams worked with cranes trying to lift chunks of debris. People spoke of many women and children trapped. The army and doctors rushed to the scene. They smashed windows to try to get to people. The Hazara Express was going from Karachi to Rawalpindi when 10 cars derailed. Some of the carriages completely detached from their bogies. One man spoke of surviving when he was thrown from the carriage through a window. A rescuer was seen weeping as he handed children to medics. Doctors tried to treat people as best they could at the scene. Huge crowds amassed outside the hospital as relatives search for loved ones. Inside, this woman protects a baby sleeping. She says her husband and son were killed. 3 more of her children are in hospital beds. Around her, people of all ages suffer in pain with broken limbs and bloodied beards. The derailment caused disruption across the rail network. Ticket holders with suitcases in nearby Karachi were left stranded. Others turned up as queues grew. Minister for Information Mariam Aurangzeb said the country's leader had vowed to learn from the disaster. She said Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has ordered a thorough investigation and promised he'll reveal the cause of this accident. The scene early Monday shows overturned carriages still across the tracks. Soldiers and volunteers worked for more than 12 hours clearing the track to get services started again. Authorities say all passengers who were on the Hazara Express are now accounted for. They dismissed reports the crash was because of flooding on the track. The investigation into the cause continues. David Garrett, TVB News.
The son of Cambodian longtime leader Hun Sen has been approved by the country's king to become the next prime minister. Hun Manet, a 45-year-old army general, will take office on August 22nd when the new National Assembly adopts the new cabinet. The ruling Cambodian People's Party won a July 23rd election where all opposition was effectively ruled out. Hun Sen himself will be sticking around as well, saying he will be serving other positions until 2033. Hun Manet studied in Britain and the United States. He's also a graduate of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. And still ahead, Ukraine's president hails highly effective and significant results from foreign-supplied air defense systems. Pope Francis wraps up an international festival of Catholic youth in the Portuguese capital. 44 people struck by suspected food poisoning at a Taipo training camp. Welcome back. A meeting to discuss a peace settlement in the Russia-Ukraine war ended in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, with no concrete solutions. Ukraine called the talks involving more than 40 countries productive, while host Saudi Arabia said delegates agreed on the importance of continuing the dialogue. Russia, meanwhile, said its forces have hit more Ukrainian targets and repelled attacks in several directions. Nazvi Karim with more.
Russia has been launching artillery, drone and missile attacks on Ukraine over the past few months. But air defense systems, particularly those from the United States and Germany, have largely dominated Russian weaponry, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said. In his nightly address, he hailed highly effective and significant results from US-built Patriot systems and Germany's Iris-T batteries. He said 65 types of missiles, 178 assault drones and 87 Iranian-made Shahed drones had been shot down over the past week. During a visit to a Ukrainian airfield at an undisclosed location, Zelensky told soldiers that more than 3,500 Russian targets have been destroyed by the Air Force, including planes, helicopters, missiles and drones. Not all Russian weapons are being intercepted, though. Moscow's forces continue to pound targets across Ukraine in response to a weekend attack on a tanker near Crimea, which Russia claimed to be a civilian vessel. The focus was on an airfield in Khmelnytsky, as well as targets in southern Zaporizhia. Reports say 6 people were killed across the country. It came as Ukraine attacked another road connecting Crimea and the Russian-occupied Kherson region. The Chonhar bridge was damaged by Ukrainian strikes, with 1 person injured. Russia also says it shot down a Ukrainian assault drone that was heading towards Moscow, the 3rd attack aimed at the capital in a week. According to Zelensky's aide, Mikhailo Podolyak, the Russian strikes are also in response to the weekend summit in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, where more than 40 countries gathered to discuss a potential peace plan for the Russia-Ukraine war. Zelensky's head of staff, Andrei Yermak, said the meeting was productive, though no concrete action is expected beyond a commitment for further consultation. Russia did not attend the meeting, with Moscow's Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov saying the summit was nothing more than the West's doomed efforts to mobilize developing countries to support Ukraine. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
Meantime, Ukraine has made a symbolic change to its giant Motherland Monument as the country continues to remove reminders of its Soviet past. Ukraine's coat of arms replaced a Soviet-era hammer and sickle plate on Kiev's latest monument on Sunday. In late July, workers used cables to lower dismantled parts of the Soviet Union coat of arms from the 61-meter statue. The largest piece, a crossed hammer and sickle, was removed last Tuesday. It represents a cultural shift towards a stronger Ukrainian self-identity, accelerated after Russia's invasion last year. Streets and squares previously named after Soviet party leaders or generals were given new names after Ukraine outlawed Soviet symbols in 2015, a year after Russia annexed Crimea. The Motherland Monument is also expected to have a new name. Niger's coup leaders have closed the country's airspace after the junta ignored a deadline to restore the ousted president. West African regional bloc ECOWAS has been indicating it may use military force to reinstate the democratically elected government, but so far has said little. Matthew Bray reports.
This is a Nigerian military spokesman announcing the closure of airspace over the country as he outlined the threat of intervention getting closer. Reading a statement, the Colonel Major said he had information a foreign power was preparing to attack Niger in coordination with ECOWAS. Without elaborating, ECOWAS is not exactly united on how to move forward. However, its current chair, Nigeria, has been urged by its Senate to push back on any military response and pursue other options. Italy on Sunday also said any deadline on the reinstatement of the president should be prolonged. On Sunday, there was a large pro-coup rally in the National Stadium in Niamey, attended by coup leaders undaunted by the possible threat of intervention. On the way to the stadium, Russian flags again being waved around, as if that is the magical solution to the anti-French sentiment well-rooted in Nigerian society. This coup supporter said the rally was to show the international community that most Nigerians are behind the soldiers who have seized the country. Inside the raucous stadium, cheers greeted any utterings from military leaders. A cockerel in French colours was beheaded. The July 26 coup has added another layer of complexity to the Sahel region. It destabilizes the vast area further and sees a shift to Russia and its proxy, the Wagner mercenary group. Given its uranium and oil resources and its role in fighting Islamist militants, what happens here holds big consequences for the Americans, Europe, Russia and China. Matthew Bray, CVB News.
Pope Francis closed a 6-day international festival of Catholic youth in the Portuguese capital Lisbon on Sunday with a huge outdoor mass. During a speech, the pontiff said he longed for world peace, especially for Ukraine. Daniel Rao tells us more.
According to local authorities, about 1.5 million people attended Pope Francis's closing mass at a riverside park in Lisbon. Many of the faithful slept outdoors after having attended a vigil there on Saturday night, and they gathered in sweltering conditions. Speaking after the Mass, the 86-year-old Francis urged the young people to take the fraternal experiences of the 6-day festival back home and apply them to their daily lives. The Pope called on the attendees to continue to pray for peace, adding they're a sign of peace for the world and have shown how different nationalities, languages and histories can unite instead of divide. He asked them to think of the young people who could not come to the event because of the world's many armed conflicts and wars. The Pope stated he felt great sorrow for Ukraine, which continues to suffer greatly amid its ongoing conflict with Russia. The pontiff had met a delegation of 15 young people from Ukraine during his trip to Portugal. Francis returned to Rome on Sunday evening after an event to thank and pray with 25,000 volunteers. The Pope said the next World Youth Day would be held in Seoul, South Korea in 2027. That brings the festival back to Asia for the first time in over 3 decades. The Pope's trip to Portugal took place in the shadow of a report 6 months ago by a Portuguese commission that found at least 4,815 minors were sexually abused by clergy over 7 decades in the country. Francis said last week the Church needs a humble and ongoing purification to deal with the anguished cries of victims of clerical sexual abuse, and met privately with 13 victims. Pope Francis also addressed his recovery from his latest abdominal surgery in June. He said it is going well and stressed that he ditched speeches during his 5-day trip to Portugal and spoke off the cuff, not because he was tired or feeling unwell, but to better communicate with young people. Daniel Rao, TVB News.
Back locally, 55 people are suspected to have been struck by food poisoning during a HKAYP Jockey Club Duke of Edinburgh training camp in Tai Po. Paramedics arrived at the camp and assisted the sick, many of whom were children and teenagers. They were sent to multiple locations for treatment, including Nether Seoul Hospital and North District Hospital. Police received a report at around 8 a.m. this morning that some people felt sick and might have food poisoning. Sources said many in the camp had eaten white sauce pasta the previous night and developed symptoms such as nausea. They believe they belonged to a Christian organization that was having a 3-day and 2-night training camp at the site. That's the news. Thanks for watching. Pearl Magazine is up shortly. Bye for now.